Thank you for letting me come and share a few words with you. You have a terrific organization. I've enjoyed working with many of you, and especially the Oregon folks over the years. And I want to especially thank your General President. Harold, thank you for your leadership, your friendship, your support, your counsel, and that of your team. You do a great job for this organization. We appreciate it. I also want to thank Kevin O'Connor, who I know is back in the green room. He and I worked closely together on many of these issues over the years and still do. We were just talking about the Cancer Registry Act and what we might be able to do to free it up in the Senate and get it down to the president's desk, which is where it needs to go. I also want to recognize the Oregonians who are in the room today. Some of them were on the Alaska airline flight with me yesterday. They behaved. There were no incidents. I want to recognize the President of the Oregon State Firefighter Council, Bob Livingston of Salem, and James Adams of Bend, and Patricia Connolly of Bend. If you're out there somewhere, thank you for being here. I listened to a couple of the preceding speakers, my friend Ben Lujan and, of course, Peter King. You cannot ignore Peter King, by the way. He is a strong voice for your efforts and for public service. And I just want to tell you a little bit about my background, then I want to talk about the issues we're working on and then where we go from here. As Harold mentioned, I grew up in a family that believed in giving back, but in addition, my folks were in the radio business and so was I. Small market radio, so I interfaced from the time I was probably 15 or 16 with local law enforcement and firefighters because we would go out and cover accidents and fires for the radio. We had a great partnership back and forth. Especially in our rural town, because it was mostly volunteer fire departments, volunteers that would go out. And while I was not a volunteer in that respect, we would work closely with the firefighters and with the police to help divert traffic, to help in any emergency that arose. And so I've seen firsthand what you all do, and you do it with great skill, great dignity, and great compassion, and we appreciate it. In addition, when you come from the West, and I know some of you do, these horrific wildfires that we are trying to work our way through are really devastating, they're destructive, and they're deadly. None more so than this summer where hundreds of thousands of acres burned, where whole communities were engulfed and destroyed. And time and again, it is the firefighters, the first responders, who put themselves between those blazes and the safety of the citizens they're trying to protect. And so I commend and congratulate you for that. But as you all know better than I, what you inhale, what you endure, means that we have to do a better job of taking care of the men and women who wear this uniform and protect us from these deadly, deadly things. And just like those who rushed into the buildings in Manhattan, 9/11, and those who fought the fires in Santa Rosa this summer, there's more work to be done. In 2012, I helped lead the effort, the legislative effort, that produced what we would now know as FirstNet, that freed up spectrum and reached the agreements and provided the funding for the first interoperable public safety broadband network in the history of the country. And as that begins to roll out, you can count on us, on me, in making sure that FirstNet works for you. Because that was the whole idea of FirstNet, was to make sure that our public service people could talk to each other, could use today's most modern technologies to communicate with each other, whether you were from the same firehouse or you'd come from halfway across the country. Because one of the tragic lessons we learned coming out of 9/11 was that people couldn't communicate and lives were lost. And we want to make sure that our first responders have access to the best technology, the best communication tools, and that evolves with innovation like we do in America. So that as new equipment comes available, as new techniques, as new technology emerges, that your services can keep pace with that. So you can count on us to continue to do the oversight on FirstNet to make sure that it works, and that we can continue to move forward on these other issues, especially the cancer registry. I think we've all been touched by cancer in our lives, in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And when Chris Collins in New York brought this legislation to our committee, backed by all of you, I knew it was something we needed to act upon, and we did. And it passed out of our committee unanimously, and it passed across the U.S. House of Representatives floor unanimously. because the messaging that you did, the work that you did, and the care that we all have, and concern for those who protect us. So the next step forward is to make sure it gets across the Senate floor. Now, as many of you know, and those of us in the House often say, the Senate's where all good legislation goes to die. So we have our work cut out. But I think in this case, it shouldn't be hard, and I think we'll find broad bipartisan agreement here. My hope is they could actually put it on what's called the hotline and just move it down. And so you can count on me to help in that regard. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for participating in a bipartisan way as well. It means a lot. I know your organization's been active with what's called Main Street. It's a Republican group of moderates who work to find solutions, and I appreciate your involvement in that. And I had the great honor of going around the country as the chairman of the House Campaign Committee for the Republicans for 2 cycles. So listening to Ben Ray Lujan, I'm going to rebut everything he said about the DCCC. But no, actually, I don't have to do any of that right now. But I do thank you for asking the questions, holding members accountable, but being involved and recognizing that when it comes to fighting fire and saving lives, there aren't Republicans, there aren't Democrats, they're just Americans. And so thanks for what you do. God bless you. And please let us know how we can continue to provide assistance. Thank you.